Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2018 City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the procedures for the meeting. The audience is reminded that this is a business meeting of the City Council, therefore clapping, cheering, and outbursts are not permitted. Speakers must complete a request to speak form located at the entrance to the council chamber. Submit your completed form to either the city clerk or the sergeant at arms. When your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and address. If you do not wish to publicly state your street address, you may state only your city or unincorporated Brevard County. Speak to City Council as a body. Do not address the mayor and City Council members individually. Be mindful of the timer at the front of the room and wrap up your comments before your speaking time ends. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied by the mayor with the approval of City Council. Public comments, most agenda items, and the consent agenda up to 3 minutes. Items designated as a public hearing and petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. These matters generally include site plan, plat, zoning of property, conditional use, variance, building-related permit or appeal, abandon and vacate requests, annexation, and other applications of law to specific properties. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin with the invocation with Bishop Patrick Williams with the Main Street Church of God. If you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand.
Good evening. Will we pray? Father, we thank you for this time and this opportunity, the gathering of this council meeting. All that's here, we ask you now that the agenda that's in place, that you will just bless them to make decisions and ever bless this community, bless this entire city. We give you glory and honor because of who you are and the answers that you were given to them. In the Lord Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop Williams. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item A3, roll call, Ms. Weiser.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Here.
And Mayor Meehan.
Here. Thank you. And next is A4. I have a proclamation and a presentation. Thank you, Kathy. First is the Bob Odom with the Myasthenia Gravis Support Group Facilitator. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas myasthenia gravis is a chronic autoimmune neuromuscular disorder, also referred to as MG, that causes extreme muscle weakness and can impact a person's ability to see, smile, walk, talk, and breathe. And whereas myasthenia gravis, which is often misdiagnosed, affects about 20 out of 100,000 people in the United States. And whereas, although there's no cure for MG, it can be controlled through medication and other treatments. And whereas people who have been affected by MG are encouraged to join a support group and learn more about this disease through the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation of America. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor, City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim June 2018 as Myasthenia Gravis Awareness Month in the City of Melbourne and encourage all citizens to join in this observance. Witness my hand in the seal of the city this 4th day of June, 2018. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations. Did you want to say a few words about your group?
We have a small support group.
Yes.
We meet at Woodstock Hospital, and we meet every other month. This disease, there's about 12 people in Melbourne here that come to the support group, and it affects your muscles, it affects your way you walk, talking. I just had a treatment today. It's a chemo treatment. It takes about 3 hours, and it's kind of rough, but we're fighting it. Hopefully they'll find a cure.
Very good.
Things like this help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Hopefully we'll promote it nationwide. Thank you so much. Here you go. Good to see you too. Okay, Niece, we have a presentation. Sherry, yeah.
Once a month, we stop and honor city employees who have reached a milestone of service, and we've got a really exceptional employee here. There you go. You get to stand in the middle. Sherry France has worked with us, is working now at the Joe Davis Community Center, formerly the Grant Street Community Center, if you're not up on the new name, has done 30 years with the city of Melbourne tonight, and we're honoring her for that service. Very passionate about her work, and here's how much she believes in the ideals of the recreation department and the community center. I see her at the end of her workday every once in a while because I see her at the gym. So she goes from the community center to the gym because she's really living the lifestyle that she represents out there, and very passionate about what she does. She holds her staff to high standards and believes in treating the patrons and the customers out there the way that she'd like to be treated, or that she'd like for her family members to be treated. So, Sherry, for 30 years of service to the city of Melbourne, you must have started when you were 10. Thank you very much. The mayor has some gifts for you. Yeah, we have a photo op. You want to get that picture?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim.
Want that picture?
So, Mike. All right, yeah. So you can balance us, I guess. Okay, item A5, approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2018 workshop meeting, and 5B, May 22nd, 28 regular meeting. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of the May 21st, 2018 workshop meeting.
Second.
Do you want to do it
No,
together?
Together. And
As well as the May 22nd, 2018 regular meeting.
Second on both.
all right, I have a motion for approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2018, and May 22nd, 2018 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item A6, City Manager's Report. Mr. McNeish, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to depart a little bit from the protocol. I'm going to ask Chief Gillespie to come up. He just found that out. I sent him a text and said, I'm calling you up. He has a new addition to the staff who's here for the first time. And I must say, he looks really good in that Melbourne Police Department uniform I see for the first time. The both of them, David, do you have somebody you'd like to introduce tonight?
Yes, I do. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So I'm excited to announce that Dave Waltmeyer is here tonight. He is the new Deputy Chief for the Melbourne Police Department. So Dave, if you would stand up, please. Dave comes to us with 23 years of experience from Anne Arundel County Police Department in Maryland. He's a familiar face for me. We had our master's program together at Johns Hopkins University back in 2005. And so I welcome Dave here. He brings a wealth of experience and is going to help our department immensely as we go forward in the coming days. So, thank you, and welcome Dave Waltmeyer.
Okay,
Welcome aboard.
All right. Welcome to Melbourne. Thank you so much.
I don't think anybody is any happier than Chief Gillespie to get a
he
really
has that
solid
big
right
smile on
hand.
his
So he just seems to be happier these days. So other than that, Mayor, I don't have anything to add.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, City Manager, I just wanted to brag about some city employees real fast. I guess about a week ago Sunday, we had one of our main water lines broke in front of the Summerbrook subdivision. And so water was out for several hours, but the water crew from Melbourne City was out there working extremely hard. It was brutally hot that day. I mean, brutally hot. And so they had to dig out a hole probably about 7-8 foot deep, in addition to fixing the pipe, and a lot of hard work. So I know the residents in that subdivision greatly appreciated their hard work, and a job well done, great attitudes, and stayed out till the job was done and water was restored. So thanks again for those water folks.
I very much appreciate, Councilman, you mentioning that. We think a lot about our first responders who put themselves at risk, but everybody that we have out there who's on the street in the summertime, it's really tough going, and so I appreciate. We've had actually 2 or 3 instances in the last week or so where citizens have contacted me as well to point out some good work. So I'll pass that along. It means a lot to them to be recognized a little bit, and they do work hard, and especially in the summertime. So thanks for calling that out.
All right. Before I go on to the next item, I do want to say congratulations to Deputy City Manager Shannon Lewis for formally being installed as President-elect of the Florida City County Management Association. And then, as such, he will serve as president of the statewide organization for 2019 to 2020 fiscal year. And City Manager Mike McNeese was sworn in for a 2-year term as an at-large member of the Board of Directors of the organization. So congratulations. Congratulations. Next is public comments under A7. Do I have any? Yes, you do. Okay, thank you. All right, first is Jennifer Thornquist. You do not have to state your street, just city.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Thornquist, District 5. I've been a resident of Melbourne for 22 years. I'm calling to question the foundation of the appeal regarding the CrossFit Rise Above's mural, and by extension, the fundamental motives behind it. There have been many different angles of arguments and opinions, and I think we can all agree it's pretty convoluted. But there's been a wide presence of hypocrisy and contradiction. I'm frustrated over the disguise draped over this appeal, and I'm frustrated with the ambiguity of the appeal. And after last Thursday, I'm still left dizzy trying to understand the ultimate goal of the party who motioned it. Okay, so what was the argument at hand? I've considered the angle that this was a mural that was deviated from the original design, and therefore inciting disappointment among some. But I remind you, we had a second hearing, and it was by the Harbor Board who approved it in January, reconsidered, revoted, and even on the altered design, it was still upheld unanimously. So was it the argument that the approval process wasn't followed? Yet the 2 main points discussed last Thursday were so subjective that I truly feel this had little to do with the process and more to do as a result of not understanding both fair use defense in regards to parody and copyright laws and not understanding the First Amendment rights that must be upheld. I'm left to speculate that what is simmering under the surface at the core of this appeal is the content. After all, it's been stated many times by members of our city council that they disapprove the mural's content, while in the same breath drawing association with entirely bizarre and irrelevant comments about the NFL or political discord. And I reflect that during February 13th's council meeting, our city attorney clearly outlined to council that the city may not regulate the contents of a sign except in certain situations like pornography, fighting words, and inciting illegal behavior. Disrespect, rudeness, and foul language are not included. Simply being offended or not liking it is not going to trigger the avoidance of the First Amendment. I am confounded. This appeal was knowingly filed without compelling evidence at the behest of a council who had already showed their hand and I believe had hopes that citizens like myself would be too lazy or too stupid to question its motives. Not only was it misguided, I find it unnerving and constitutionally offensive. But in closing, and in the most central part of my comment tonight, I challenge you as representation of the city to remain fiscally prudent and mindful of the negative financial impact this has had on our city so far, where our funds may be better allocated so that we may continue to move onward and upward as one of the best cities in the state of Florida and the United States as a whole.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thornquist. Next is William Curry III.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And you don't have to mention your address. You can just say city.
I live at 2290 Avocado Avenue in Eau Gallie, right on the edge of the Booker T. Washington neighborhood where I did the bust of Booker T. Washington on a federal grant. You might notice the condition of the sign is pretty bad. About now, I'm hoping to be able to repaint it someday. And I painted the first mural ever in Eau Gallie. But the city made me stop right there. I was supposed to do the entire wall. So I have been censored by the city of Melbourne. And I'm here today to step up in my authority in the art community, claim that wall for my mural, and explain that the very first street artists were sign painters. And I was recruited right off the street to go to work for Harris, where I did trade show displays, learned technical illustration, all kinds of other stuff. You want to talk about international artists? I won the Paris Air Show with the display from Harris, okay? I worked at Devereaux for 10 years. Well, I worked at Harris for about 5 years. Then I went back into my own business. I had a sign shop on Highland in Eau Gallie. Almost every sign on the street was mine. It looked good back then. Didn't look like a dead zone left to the crows, okay? Then I got to work at Devereaux for 10 years as their resident artist, where I did murals for their facility here. They flew me to other facilities. I started a apprentice program, vocational program, work with their vocational program, which is a flagship vocational program. We've had people from all over the country come here to find out what is your secret. My secret, with the population I work with, I find out what they want to do and I give them plenty of it. Now they're on task and appropriate. But this group here, Eau Gallie Art District, EGAD, 501c3, and anti-gravity, no. I'm here to step into my authority as a citizen here and say, save it for the tourists. You can save your post-war beatnik jive for the tourists. There is no way that Florida artists, the local artists here, are behind them. We are way out in front. We've been cutting edge forever. You can look at the stuff that I did when I was in art school, and these guys haven't even caught up. You know, you just want to talk about an artist like Gandhi. I'm a master artist. I do it all, I teach it all. Gondek is a journeyman. He's extremely limited in his approach. So much so that all we have to wonder about is which iconic cartoon character is he going to disembowel next. And I'm saying that a mural fest is a great thing. I've done several mural fests. As a matter of fact, none of their murals have faded yet, and I've been through several phase cycles. You're going to have a real problem on your hand before it's all over, time will tell. Okay, so I'm saying, why is the city of Melbourne playing catch up with a renegade 501c3 that has proven to be irresponsible and uncooperative? Their behavior in the community will not float at Devereaux, okay? It's public record, the comments that they have made, the harm that they have caused to the people at the furniture store. They have actually instilled fear in people's hearts. That is not the way to go about business. You might as well come in here and try to run the local surfers off the waves in Satellite Beach. In the surfer lingo, these posers would be caught in the shore pound on the rocks, while the Florida artists are out ripping the set waves, okay? Now.
You need to wrap it up.
Okay,
Wrap it up.
the Florida artists have been censored. We're not represented here. They're completely off the rails to the original idea that Brad Smith drew up for the city of Melbourne for the, what is it? The redevelopment plan for O'Galley. I've got it. I got a copy of it, and I'm gonna be in touch with y'all through emails and the posts that I make on the Today paper and on the, excuse me for being so nervous and excited, but I have passion for this. I went to Charleston for 4 years. I came back, the babysitter threw a party and let the kids go crazy on the walls with permanent markers, and now they're mad at me because I want to paint the wall over and hurt the kids' feelings.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Next is James Cox. Again, you don't have to state your address and city. Bless you.
Mayor Constable James Cox, Melbourne 32935. What I'm here for today is to maybe bring to the attention that in 2019 is the 50th anniversary of Ugali and Melbourne coming together. And, you know, we don't come here to be great friends, but we do come here to be good neighbors. And that was an example in our history where we became good neighbors. And moving forward, I think it's an opportunity to where we all need to come together, and it's an opportunity for that. So in 2019, we could celebrate that 50th anniversary of when we became one city. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cox. Okay. Next is Eric Ellebrock.
Eric V. Ellebrock, 1948 Tyler Avenue, lifelong resident of the city of Melbourne. Yeah, the 50th anniversary of the merger of O'Galley is coming up. Some people are going to celebrate, other people are going to cry, scream, and moan. Melbourne city leaders elected to the Florida City County Management Association Board. It's on the city website. Melbourne Deputy City Manager Shannon Lewis, City Manager Mike Nees. They are not city leaders. They are city employees. You are city leaders. They are city employees. Let's make few things straight. Let's talk about the Airport Authority Board. 4 things that need to be brought up here, that need to be changed about the relationship. First of all, City of Melbourne on the website needs to list the time, dates of the Melbourne Airport Authority meetings so more people can be aware of it. Second of all, the hours need to be changed from 8 o'clock in the morning to sometime in the evening so more working citizens can attend. Third, like any other city board, it needs to be held here in the city hall, not at the Airport Authority, because in fact, they are a city board. Okay? And the meeting times need to be changed. And above all, at least this is what I would like to have happen, it needs to be televised. Okay? It needs to be televised and replayed on the city government channel so people can see. Because right now, the Airport Authority Board has more or less been acting in the shadows. A city board meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning? Now, remember, I've attended quite a few of these. And don't worry, I'll be at the next one. All right. Speaking of airport, Canada is going to completely legalize pot. You're going to be able to grow pot, have pot plants in Canada, and so it's supposed to happen at the end of June. I predict the price for Porter Airways flight tickets is going to get increased, okay? Because now we're going to see the reverse, okay? And man, you talk about unintended consequences. I didn't think Porter was going to fly, and they've been having financial difficulties, and it hasn't really been paying for itself. But boy, such an answer to tariffs, huh? Yeah, I predict Porter Airlines is going to make some money. All right. Now, one other thing. I've kind of abstained from this whole, how should I say it? Because I made the mural controversy, because I made my opinions in which y'all should have done 3 years ago when the whole thing came up first time. And I would like every one of you to go back and read the city minutes, the minutes from the meeting 3 years ago, and what I exactly said, okay? Because I tried to get it and have it here. Oh, by the way, real quick, jumping subject, I'm going to go in front of the city manager's office next week, get permission to go down to the old Rathman Marina, take pictures of that boat ramp. So, boating season's coming up, and I'm going to show everybody the ramp that's not being used. Anyways, jump back to the murals, okay? Again, I want you to listen to read what I said, okay? Because y'all put yourself in this position. And this has been hell, and it's spent money. It's cost the city money. It's just been controversy. But y'all put yourself here because the decisions you made, they were wrong. All right? The decisions you made 3 years ago were wrong. I'm not going to say anything further about that. Now, has anybody ever heard of West Hollywood, California? Nah, I've never heard of West Hollywood.
You want to wrap it up?
I'm sure. I never heard of West Hollywood until recently because they gave Stormy Daniels the key to the city. Geez, now they made international news. We could have had that if y'all would have let me have a Stormy Daniels day. Thank you.
All right, next is Marvin Muffett.
Marvin Moffett, Melbourne, Florida. On Friday, Melbourne made history. FIT was rated 5% of the world's greatest universities. But I'm here to tell you, that's not the story. I was there in 1983. It was the most racist school I ever attended in my life. Please do not honor them. They're under a class action suit. We had 7 American blacks in both universities, in Melbourne and Jensen Beach. I was one of 5 on the basketball team, and we had 2 young ladies. So please do not honor FIT. They got a class action suit going on right now because they don't have enough American blacks. The football team was forced. They need numbers. The government was going to shut them down. That's enough for FIT. Please do not honor them because it's not good. But this is what I'm here for. I went to the city clerk's office and I got a copy of the report I've been waiting for a year. In that report, it says no record. Well, I got arrested. I got a mugshot on May 27, arresting police, Melbourne PD. I got booked while I was already in the county jail, arresting officer, Melbourne PD. How can you not have a record when I have two mugshots? Now, I'm headed to FDLE. I have to file a claim, bill, because I've been arrested twice for a violation of an injunction that never exists. Now I'm legally blind in my left eye. I got punched while I was in jail. I wrote a letter to a city staff member that I got trespassed from, and I wrote it to her house from the county jail. I don't understand it. How can I not have a record? Is there a cover-up? Do the FBI need to come investigate? Because the officer who arrested me transferred to Cocoa Police Department. And I just received that letter, certified letter. I got all the other 7 that exonerated the other officers. They followed policies and procedures. Why this one had to be certified after a year? Please investigate. Please do your due diligence. I'm a victim. I will be filing a claim bill. I will be giving Florida Today an article because this is blatant disrespect to a citizen. And I am a citizen of the city of Melbourne.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Muffett. Next is Victor Hugo, I believe, or Hogo. I apologize. I'm not sure if it's a U or an O.
That's okay. It's Victor Hugo.
All right, Victor Hugo. And you don't need to give your address,
Okay.
just city.
I guess Volusia would be.
Okay, county.
Yeah. I'm actually a traveling artist. I call the road my home. I go from New York to California with the modern art music movement. And in stopping by Melbourne, I saw the mural that's been quite contentious in this community. And I guess on speaking in behalf of the artists and the community, the one thing that art is supposed to do is it's supposed to enhance a community and not divide it. And what I've noticed in traveling through here is how this mural has divided the community. And so I'm offering a solution. I have done murals and graffiti art for the city of Miami Beach. I've also done murals for the city of West Palm Beach. And I'm not immune to censorship. I have a film that's an award-winning film that's titled Crackhead Jesus the Movie. And you can imagine how that's been censored. Anyway, I have a solution. The graffiti community is about layering. And so this way, you guys can have a solution where you're not censoring the art, because from what I understand, that wasn't the art that was originally proposed, which, that's not right. But if you want to find a solution, graffiti is...
Mr. Hallebrack, if I hear one more comment or sneezing or coughing, I'm giving you a warning. I know why you're doing it. All right.
So,
sorry, sir.
That's okay. So a possible solution would be to layer it. And from what I've seen, and I can understand with the violence that's going on in our nation, and especially since it's impacting children that see this mural when they pass by, a possible solution could be to actually take those places where violence is being shown, and you could put words like live, love, flow, and think to just cover up that one portion. This way you're not getting rid of the whole mural, you're leaving 80%. But those little parts, just like when you watch TV and they blur out certain things. So, I mean, I would volunteer to do that if you wish, or you can get another artist, a local artist, or what have you. But that's a solution that I think even the artist who created it as a graffiti artist would understand. My being from New York, that's how it is. We layer art on top of each other. And so I think that might be something that would be a solution. I'm just trying to be solution oriented. I respect artists. As an artist myself, I don't like to be censored. However, I do realize that the purpose of art is to make people happy. Life is too tough as it is right now for everybody. And I think rather than finding the negative in this, we could completely flip it and make it a positive. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hugo.
Yeah. What is the name of that movie? This movie that's
Okay,
censored?
Mr. Hugo, what was the name of your movie again? Vice Mayor Minus would like to...
It's Crackhead Jesus, the movie, and it's actually based on a true story called the Crackhead Jesus Trials, which took place in Delray Beach, Florida. And I produced this film with the modern art music movement to raise awareness about the social issues going on here in Florida. And it actually has gotten a worldwide audience because of the fact that it was censored. It actually brought more attention to it, which is what's happening with your mural here. But you guys are getting bad attention. So I like this city. I think it's a great city. And I think you guys have a real opportunity here to show people how you can fix things.
Thank you, Mr. Hugo. All right, next is Lisa Elaine from Atlantic Furniture.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lisa from Atlantic Furniture across the street from the mural. Last week during the planning and zoning meeting, my heart really went out to Matt Gondek. I noticed his frustration and his misunderstanding of why he has to keep enduring uncertainty about his art here in Melbourne. I now understand that Matt knew exactly what he was going to paint when he arrived here. I certainly understand his compassion for his work because I have that same compassion for my business. Hearing Matt's interpretation of the mural, I can relate to it, and I do understand and wholeheartedly agree that there is too much hate, division, and violence in this world. Visually, Matt's mural and his interpretation leaves many confused, as the mural itself paints a very different picture. I think those of us who questioned the mural. I didn't expect to see this mural of this caliber or content in our city, because we believed the Main Street initiative was to improve the area, yes, but all while preserving our historical coastal community. So obviously mistakes were made. Now the interpretation of the mural and the guidelines set by the city are certainly being misconstrued. The city has to have rules and regulations because, as we've seen, any good lawyer can make them seem real fuzzy. I know this mural will most likely stay, but in the future, let's protect our residents and business owners from what I have endured. I am glad I didn't take heed with Mayor's little push to file the appeal. I didn't want to follow that appeal. It made me very nervous to begin with. I had already endured enough. I do want to thank Paul Alfrey, Tim Thomas, Betty Moore, and Teresa Lopez, because I feel all of you have the residents' best interest at heart, because you're adhering to the rules and the regulations of the city. My last thought is this mural needs some kind of a bronze plaque for visitors coming into the area who may, like us, misunderstand the artist's intentions. Something to think about. We all obviously need to spell out what we consider appropriate for all ages. So the guidelines really need to be very clear with no mistakes so that this doesn't happen again. So that's my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Next is Marcia Drabeck.
Hi, I'm Marcia Drabeck. I live in Melbourne. Last Thursday at the Long P&Z meeting, there's lots that can be said about that meeting. But for me, the bottom line was, it was very frustrating the way the decision of that board ended up being made. After 3.5 hours of audio testimony from the original meeting, and after lots of what was supposed to not be taken into account, public comment, and emails that were written also weren't supposed to be taken into account, all of that, the P&Z board members actually said they didn't want their P&Z board's decisions second-guessed, and so felt uncomfortable second-guessing decisions made by another Melbourne board. That was really their bottom line. Only one member asked questions based on the issues, and he's the only member that voted with the appeal. Everyone else just talked about the fact that they didn't, or the people who spoke that they didn't want their board, they were a volunteer board, and they didn't want their P&Z board decisions to be second-guessed, and so felt uncomfortable second-guessing another board's decision that was also volunteer. So they voted 6-1 against the appeal. Again, only one member even asked questions about the issues. So after the time and emotion that was invested prior to and at that meeting over this mural, and over the importance of it, and over how it has upset, affected, divided, caused people hate and anger and frustration, it was very, in my opinion, horribly disrespectful for all of this to culminate in a board that just voted to cover Harb's butt in order to keep their own butt covered in future. Just thought it was disrespectful.
Okay, that's it?
I'm sorry.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Drabeck. Okay, so I will close the public hearing and for public comments and go into old business. Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
Okay, if, Madam Mayor, if that's possible, can we open this up and discuss this? I know that Ms. Dawley was going to speak on this tonight. Would you like to wait till the end, or can we go ahead and discuss this?
Ms. Dolly and I discussed it that we would wait till the end on the remonstrances and
Yes, ma'am.
communications.
Okay,
All the
then
way
that's
to the
fine.
end.
Then that's fine. I'll accept that, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
She will tell us at that point where we
That's
stand.
fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8 is unfinished business. Item 8 is ordinance number 2018-21, which is the comprehensive plan amendment, and ordinance number 2018-22, rezoning request at Hidden Harbor Estates. Ms. Allison Dolly, we will read both of those ordinances and we'll vote separately.
Yes, ma'am. Ordinance number 2018-21, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, making findings, amending Appendix D, Chapter 4, Section 4.04 of the City Code, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan by changing the future land use classification from low-density residential to office professional on 2.134 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of O'Galley Boulevard, west of Florida East Coast Railway and east of Mosswood Drive, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule. Ordinance number 2018-22. An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by changing the zoning classification from RA, residential holding, to C1A, professional offices and services district, on 2.134 plus or minus acres of property, and from RA to R2, 1, 2, and multiple family dwelling medium density district, on 8.953 plus or minus acres of property located on the south side of O'Galley Boulevard, west of the Florida East Coast Railway and east of Mosswood Drive, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under community development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, council initially considered this item at the April 24th meeting, and then and that ordinance failed to be approved at that meeting. During the May 8th meeting, council unanimously voted to rescind the denial of the ordinance. This item has been re-advertised and the property owners within 500 feet re-notified of the hearing this evening. So we're back here this evening for the first readings of ordinances for an overall 11.087 acre property to change the land use from low density residential to office professional on 2.134 acres, and to change the zoning from RA to C1A on the same 2.13 acres, and also from RA to R2 on the remaining 8.953 acres. The property is located on the south side of West O'Galley Boulevard, west of the Florida East Coast Railroad and east of Mosswood Drive. The applicant is proposing office professional uses along the O'Galley frontage. As you can see in the map here, the blue area, they're requesting a change for office professional land use on this tract, along with the C1A zoning. The yellow area that's shown on the map is the area where they are requesting a change to the R2 zoning. This area already has a low-density residential future land use, so there is no request for a change of that land use. The low-density residential land use allows the development of single-family and townhome-style development, and it allows up to 6 units per acre of development under that density. Additionally, I did show council this map previously, but this sort of shows the pattern of land use along the O'Galley corridor. As you can see, the pink in that area is the office professional use. So the pattern of development has been predominantly the office professional use along the O'Galley frontage. And then to the rear of the properties, both to the north and south, is where then you've typically had the low-density residential development along this corridor. There will be a preliminary plat that will be considered after the second reading of these ordinances. And the developer did prepare a traffic study that came after the package actually went out. Staff will provide that to City Council in the package with the preliminary plat at the next meeting. And also, council received a petition in their package As noted, the blue memo that you have before you this evening, those petition numbers have changed since the time your package went out. There were 9 property owners that removed their name from the petition. That dropped the percentage from 23.7% to 18.79%, which makes it below the 20% threshold. So there will not be a requirement for a 6/7 vote on this item. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend unanimously to approve these requests, and staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-21 and approval of ordinance number 2018-22 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Minus.
The residents who rescinded their name, did they mention to anyone why they did, or they had second thoughts, or why did they take their name off the list?
They did not talk to our staff about why they removed their name.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, this is quasi-judicial. Do I have any disclosures?
Yes, I have.
Ms. Lopez.
Yes, I have 2. I met with 4 gentlemen, Michael Grayson, Harry Mirmuri, May 9th, 2018 at 9 a.m. at 2293 Aurora Road. Don't have the other 2 names, but it is one of the gentlemen that made the last presentation.
Bruce Moya?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and also, I got a phone call from the president of the Melbourne Chamber, Michael Ayers.
Ayers.
And,
Okay.
and he just wanted to know how I felt about the project, basically.
Okay. All right, Mr. Alfrey?
Yes, I already made a disclosure earlier. Was speaking with Mr. Moya, but that was the last meeting prior to the
okay.
rescission. But I did get a call from Mr. Ayers from the Melbourne Chamber yesterday as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
I just have an email on June 8th from Mr. Moya, just updating what was going on and what they'd like to see be done.
Okay. Vice Mayor Minus?
Mayor, I did not have any contact. There was someone from Mr. Moya's office who called me, but we kept missing each other, so that is my only contact.
Okay. Mayor? All right. Ms. Moore?
I have a page full. I met with Bruce Moya on the 5th of May, the 8th, I'm sorry, at his office to discuss my nay vote on Hidden Harbor. We talked for about an hour. Present was Michael Grayson from Remax Alternate Realty and Harry Mirpool. I may kill your name, Harry, sorry. I spoke with 2 neighbors, Mike Hampton and Mr. and Mrs. Riley. Also concerning this, on 6/8, I spoke with Bruce Moya by email, but in person on 6/4, I spoke with David Masselford. And I did speak with our facilities, asking them to check the storm sewers and the lift station to make sure the generator was working. I talked to Michael Ayers, and I spoke today with Roma Matthews, who is a resident in the neighborhood.
All right. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I spoke to Mr. Moya in a telephone conversation on the 15th of May, and then talked to Michael Ayers this morning via telephone, and also had an email, I think, from Mr. Moya this morning with an update. So those are my 3 communications.
All right. I have none. This is a public hearing, and I will open up the public hearing. First is Bruce Moya, followed by Michael Ayers.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor and Council. Appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come back and present this project to you. I hear my name a lot that's being thrown around up here. I think that's because I have skin in the game. I'm the engineer of record for the project, but my office is right across the street. So I'm excited to have some new development in the area. It's an area that hasn't seen development in quite some time. I learned that very clearly as I walked through the neighborhood. I did find out that there was a petition from some of the people that we spoke to, We had a meeting with the neighbors that received a notice that we were going to have this meeting. We met with them a second time, and the ones that we spoke to a second time didn't have any objection. So we were surprised to see the petition. So when we did, we walked the neighborhood and we could have walked the whole neighborhood. We didn't have to. We saw what was happening. As soon as we met with those people and showed them what we were doing, they quickly turned around and said, you know what, we don't have a problem with that. It's about time that something got built in this area. You know, we think it's going to bring the property values up in the area. It's new development, it's upscale development, it's gated community. It's going to bring some much needed growth to the area. So they were excited. And they willingly signed off and said, you know what, now that I know exactly what you're doing, we have no objection to this at all. Do we need to go to all of them? No, we just went to enough to where we felt comfortable that we knew what the outcome was going to be as far as the residents once they knew what we were building here. And so as you can see, this is what we're building here. We're building upscale, single-family townhomes and single-family detached residential developments. We have done a number of things for this project with the neighborhood in mind. Specifically, we also contacted the city's utility director to talk about the sewer because that came up at the last meeting. We didn't know that was an issue, so we did reach out to make sure that there wasn't a problem, that we weren't going to make it any worse. We've agreed to dedicate 10 feet of our property to the city so that the road, Mosswood Drive, can meet city standards. It'll have the full right-of-way width. We've agreed to pave it, we've agreed to widen it, and we've agreed to construct a pedestrian access on it that it doesn't have currently. And we're doing that all at our cost. We're going to mill the road. It's going to look brand new, and we're going to give that to the city. And we're not even going to access it because one of the requirements, one of the things we're offering is we're going to gate the entrance onto Mosswood. So we're not going to give access to the residents. It'll only be for emergency vehicles and for service vehicles for the city. So we think that's a pretty good gift. I would be very pleased with that if this was my neighborhood. We also did, we relocated the dock. We had it to the west. We moved it interior to the development along with the pool and the bathhouse, so that, you know, if that's our rec area, it would be internal to the project rather than on the perimeter that might affect the neighbor to the west. We are preserving over 95% of the existing wetland on the property, and we're going to put that into conservation so it's maintained in perpetuity, so it can't get developed. And basically by doing that, it's forced us to cluster the development, and that's why you see the development just the way you see it laid out here. We could have had 6 units to the acre. That's the land use. We're only providing 3.06 units to the acre. And you might hear some feedback on that from some of the opposition, but that acreage and that unit density is applied to the entire project, because we could also put residential units in the commercial area, but we're not going to do that. We're not proposing that. So we think that's pretty good that we've cut the density in half. And we have prepared a traffic study because that did come up. So we hired Kimley Horn, very reputable company, to do a traffic study, and I think you've got it. And it says right here, it says all study intersections were found to operate at an acceptable level of service overall in the AM peak and the PM peak hour. Per FDOT guidance, no new turn lanes are recommended for ingress into the site at the new driveway. So the professionals say that traffic's not an issue. And so we agree. We agree. And I travel this road probably more times than some of the people that live there. I mean, I go in and out of my office all day, every day. So I know there's some issues. It's a major roadway, and getting in and out can be tough. But is 34 single-family homes really going to make that much of a difference? They're building to the east like crazy. They're building to the west like crazy. So that road's going to see some traffic on it. I think it's regardless of this development. So what I'd like to do is bring it to the next speaker and reserve any time later so I can rebut any other comments that come up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moya. Any questions for Mr. Moya?
Not at this time.
Okay, Michael Ayers.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time this evening. Before I get into my remarks, I do want to just make sure you all are aware of our mural dedication and chamber beautification event next week on June 20th that everyone is invited to. Hopefully you saw that invitation already, but want to make sure it's on your calendars. We're excited to have everyone out. I'm Michael Ayers, President and CEO of the Melbourne Regional Chamber. And before I begin, I do want to say, I did speak to many of you, and I thank you for your time. Before we did anything as far as weighing in on this matter, we wanted to understand all sides. And so I specifically spoke to those of you that were not in favor of this at the last meeting to understand your perspective. And my staff reached out to some of the neighbors involved as well to hear their perspective. With that being said, on behalf of the Chamber, I'm here to urge you to support this comprehensive plan amendment and the zoning change for the Hidden Harbor neighborhood. We as a community have such great economic activity taking place in Melbourne right now, with companies such as Northrop Grumman, Harris, Embraer, all continuing to hire employees, and they need places for them to reside. And as Melbourne continues to grow as this technology hub, it's smart development in the core of the city that will encourage more businesses to move to Melbourne and allow these companies to better retain their employees. Furthermore, this project will be a benefit to every citizen of Melbourne by increasing the tax base through increasing the value of this property as well as increasing the value of the surrounding properties. This beautiful neighborhood will be a great addition to the Melbourne community, and we should applaud these developers for working with the surrounding neighbors to make this a win for everyone. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Next is Kyle Militano. I hope I pronounced that right.
Right on the button.
Oh, okay.
Hello, thank you for allowing us to come speak tonight. As you said, I'm Kyle Militano. I'm the owner of Militano Construction. I'll be doing the project, building it out. And most of the projects we work on, Militano, are high-end custom homes. So we're not a quick knock it out and go. We do good quality projects, which is what this project's all about. The project itself is going to be valued between $15 and $17 million. Obviously, we're going to have a great impact to the economy here. We're going to have approximately $7 million in job impacts, including about 200 to 250 people getting work out of this project. Not only does it put a lot of money and a lot of tax base into the community, but it benefits all our local vendors, the suppliers, the local workers, and everything else. As Bruce had mentioned, this is a private gated community. And to my knowledge, I don't think we have any private gated communities from Indian River all the way out to 95. So it's going to be probably one of the classiest neighborhoods between that area. So in my eyes, it's a big asset to this community. And it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be all upper end. It's not tract homes. It's high-end custom homes between $700,000 and $750,000, and then townhouses approximately $400,000. And obviously, when you build something like that, that's going to increase all the neighbors' values, as most of you probably already know. So, again, it's just a great asset to the community, and I hope we can have your vote.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Michael Grayson.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Michael D. Grayson. I'm at 180 Paradise Boulevard in Melbourne, Florida. I've been a Melbourne resident for about 35 years. I'm a licensed realtor for about 18 years. My office is at Remax Alternative Realty, which is across the street from the Doubletree Hotel in A1A. We're consistently one of the county's top producing offices. Last year, we sold about $100 million worth of property. Bruce and I walked around and talked to a couple of residents that were on the petition, and they told us that they were being told that we're going to put multifamily, low-income Section 8 housing on this site. That's not at all what we're intending to do. We're going to put an exclusive gated waterfront community, which will consist of 25 single-family attached townhomes, 9 single-family direct waterfront homes, And due to the lack of inadequate new housing, the city is missing out on a tax base and other advantages as highly skilled professionals are bypassing Melbourne and heading to Vieira and the newer built beachside communities. Hidden Harbor Estates will provide much needed premium housing for the influx of professionals drawn to Melbourne by corporate employers such as Harris, Grum, and Holmes Regional Hospitals and the affiliate employers of the Melbourne International Airport and the space-related industries. The tax base and the surrounding property values will increase. We called the Brevard County property appraiser. He says the millage rate will be approximately 19.75%. With the homestead exemption, without the homestead exemption, on the single-family attached homes valued at $400,000 each, there will be a $7,900 property tax, or $197,500 per year to the city. The single-family homes valued at about $750,000 will result in a property tax of $14,800 per home, or about $133,000 for the year, and a combined total of about $300,000 worth of income that the city is going to get. Like Bruce said, we have a traffic study for you, and the traffic study said that there would be no impact on the Mosswood Road. To the benefit of the city and Richmond Drive residents, even though this project will not negatively impact Mosswood Drive, Harry, the developer, at his sole expense, will dedicate the city approximately 400 feet long of Mosswood Drive, widen it, it's 10-foot wide portion at the end of the property. And he'll put in it's currently substandard, and so what we're going to do is improve that road, mill it, repave it, and add a 4-foot sidewalk, and then landscape the improvements. And one of the concerns with some of the residents were vision. I think once that we improve Mosswood Drive, the line of sight will be better for them to see out to O'Galley Boulevard, and thus create a more safer driving condition. I'd like to just say a little bit about Harry Mirpuri, the developer. He's the managing partner for 1245 West O'Galley Boulevard. He gainfully employs over 200 people around the state. I've been working with Harry for about 3.5 years. We work on a weekly, if not daily basis. I've got to know him very well. He's of the highest integrity. He's true to his word, and I've always known him to follow through on promises. The community is sort of at an advantage to have him working here with us. He purchased a 2-acre waterfront lot in Melbourne Beach in 2015. We built a custom home with Joyelle on that site, and Joyelle is using that as their entry in the prestigious Aurora Awards. It's a Southern Building Conference made up of the southern states, and because of the extreme quality of that house, that's their entry. He's also going to develop the project at 705 Harbor City Boulevard, the old Shooter's Coral Bay restaurant site, commonly known as Riverwalk. And we're also looking into putting in some sort of high-end assisted living facility. I think we're lucky to have him come to our community, and I just want to formally welcome Harry, his family, and the company to the neighborhood. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Grayson.
Mayor,
Yeah,
I need a
Ms. Moore.
correction. Mr. Grayson? I'm not sure whether I understood correctly. There are 12 buildings, 24 units. How did we get 25?
I think there's 25 single-family attached units, 9 single-family waterfront detached houses.
Okay, thank you.
See it here. These are 25 units right here, and then you have your 9 single-family units on the waterfront.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next is Harry Mirpuri.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us and thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, you know,
I'm sorry, name and city.
Sorry, Harry Mirpuri, Melbourne Beach.
All right, thank you.
I'm really excited about the opportunity we have at hand. I also know that, as you know, Melbourne is such a wonderful place to live. I feel that there's such a great community and a sense of neighborhood here that I decided I wanted to have a residence in Melbourne. That's how strongly I feel about the community. I also know that there's also opportunity here. The lack of housing, the lack of places to live, play, and really have that quality of life is an important component. And what we realize today is with the job growth market coming into the market, we need to serve that. That's a great opportunity. We want people not just to work in Melbourne, we want them to stay in Melbourne. And I see the opportunity and I realize that the Viera market and the South market is really taking that market share away from us. We need to give people the quality of lifestyle that they're looking for in a community that works. And to that point, we brought on a great local partnership with Kyle Militano, Bruce Moya, Mike Grayson. Again, supporting local is the key to any successful business. And I really feel strongly about that. So with that being said, you know, I think that I've addressed with all of our team that whatever our concerns are, we have to look at others' concerns as well. We have to make sure that we do this in partnership. So whether it's feedback from the city or the residents, we've made specific notice to try to address those concerns, even at a cost. And I realize that, you know, money isn't everything, but the reality is we have to be good neighbors. And so with that, and respectfully, I would ask for your vote in support of this project, knowing that anything that we are going to do is going to be a landmark here, knowing that we're not just in it for the next few years, we're in it for many, many years to come. We even have corporate offices now in Melbourne as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Mike Hamper.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Mike Hamper, 1314, 1324 Richmond Drive. I guess I'll be the first to say that I'm here speaking in opposition to this project. Again, I'll say it like I did last time. It's a beautiful product. They've gone out of their way to answer some of the questions that we had from Richmond Drive on to Mosswood. I don't think any of us would be here if it was an R1 request, right? It's the R2 that bothers us. I get the density part, that it could be much more, but in my mind, you know, with the wetlands and the limited space they have to develop, a single family product would better suit where they're putting it in relation to our neighborhood and the neighborhood to the east, Sun Circle. I will say they did a traffic study. I saw the cameras and counters out there. I just want you to keep in mind they did it the week after Little League ended. The traffic picks up exponentially during Little League season. They put the cameras out the week after, so the traffic on and off Mosswood is greatly reduced when Little League's not in play, when people are piling onto Mosswood to go to Crane Fields. Their entrance doesn't really line up with Stewart, as far as I know. I spoke to Ms. Moore several times. I've got a letter here from the state that I brought up when they did the resurfacing. I've made this complaint 5 years ago. So it has little to do with this development. This development just brings more residents to the area on and off of Oak Valley Boulevard, making it more congested. It really has nothing to do with Mosswood Drive for me. It's the area between Mosswood and US 1 or Apollo Boulevard extension in US 1 really. I think what we need is a fifth lane. I spoke to somebody at the city that said we can petition the DOT at the time of permitting to see if we can get that fifth lane approved. That's really what needs to be done from the church to where the road jogs back around right west of Sun Circle West. If you get the fifth lane, you get a suicide lane on Oak Valley Boulevard. You have safe ingress, egress, not only out of this development, but onto Stewart, onto Mosswood, both ways, north and south. So again, I'm in opposition mainly to the R2. I do think it's a beautiful product. I got to disagree with the findings they found when they went on their walk. I know the neighbors that went out and got the petition, and I don't think Section 8 housing ever came up. They're here to speak, so I'll let them speak for themselves. And the other last thing I have to say is, it's not the storm sewer that's the problem. It's the sanitary sewer that's the problem. The houses on the south side of Richmond Drive are below the road. They rely on that lift station. When the lift station goes out, the sanitary sewer backs up into their houses, and that's the problem. So if these guys are connecting in any way to that sewer system, then that needs to be addressed, because the people on the south side of Richmond Drive suffer every time there's a problem with that lift station, and it literally backs up into their house. So thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hammer. Next is Brian Steppard, Brian Stevens, I'm sorry. Is it Stevens?
Close enough, yeah.
Okay.
Stevens, chicken scratch, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have corrected that when you asked, sorry. Yeah, my name is Brian Stevens. I'm with the Eau Gallie Arts District Main Street Program. I'm the chairman of the ERC committee. ERC is focused primarily on the businesses that are in EGAT. We help and support and are friends with the businesses and the business owners. I was not privy to any of the particular complaints from the community about this project. I know Bruce Moya. Bruce Moya knows me. And he reached out to me, and I was immediately excited about the project, not for myself or for Main Street in particular, but for the businesses that are on that street and for the businesses that we serve. One of the primary complaints that I hear from the businesses that we serve is that we need patrons. We need patrons to support Jones Pies, Standard Collective, Mario's, Intracoastal Brewery, the new businesses that are coming in that we're trying to develop and foster on a daily basis. This development is, just from what I've seen and from my very limited review, admittedly, I feel very confident it's going to support our businesses. I know that the residents have legitimate concerns, but I want to be here on behalf of the businesses that I serve as a volunteer to say, please cast your support for this development project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Next is Ramona Matthews. Again, you don't have to state your street address, the city.
Ramona Matthews, 1317 Richmond Drive. I walked around the petition, myself and my husband, Philip, regarding this project. As Mike has stated, what the petition was about was strictly the R2 zoning. I tried to write down a few points I want to make so I don't forget them. The petition itself, can we put that up there, the petition? Do you mind, what counts and what doesn't count, so I can speak to it? Would that be all right? Yeah, that one there. Okay. I do want to note that there's a large amount of acreage. I didn't realize this till today, that it's actually based on acreage, not property addresses, not residents. So the areas that you see just partially highlighted within that, that's the only acreage that counts on that address. But I do want to know all the frontage on Eau Gallie Boulevard there is all businesses. I didn't get a chance. I wanted to calculate the acreage on that. In addition, the large acreage that's across the river from there, that's Hidden Harbor. I believe is it the same property owners? It's the same name. Oh.
No relation. All right.
Okay.
Move the microphone towards you.
I don't want it in my face, but there we go. Is that better? Sorry. So So that's Hidden Harbor Apartments across the river there. So that's one unit, a group of owners, I guess, but that's a large percentage of acreage that counted towards this petition. That in addition to the I think there was like, I didn't write it down, maybe I did. The numerous businesses, I can't see it real good from here. I think there's, I want to say 20, but I didn't write it down. So I did not go to any of the businesses. I don't think that they really have a valid statement in defining the difference between R2 and R1A or R1AA. We do support the frontage of O'Galley Boulevard to the business, to the C1A zone. We have no issue with that. All the doors answered that were knocked on, signed. What we did say is that we're in opposition of the R2 zoning, and we defined what the difference between R2 and R1A and R1AA for the most part, but we just said the townhomes. I'm not sure what Bruce communicated when he went around to the homes yesterday and today, but it is defined as single-family homes, so that may have been a misunderstanding on their part. For me, townhomes are not single-family homes, so it's a definition. And also, I wanted to point out that 12 signatures on the petition were not counted due to the owner's address or the owner's signature. It wasn't, the name didn't match up. Maybe it was, on one, there was 4 properties that was all the same family. So one wrote down the wrong address. Another one, it was someone else in the home that answered that door, but after speaking with the homeowner, Doreen, I forget her last name, it's the same family that owns all 4 of those residences, and they all support opposition of the R2 zoning. On the sewage issues that Mike mentioned, I wanted to add that when the big issues happen, when the sewer does come into the homes on that side of the street, it's typically when we have heavy rains and power outages that occurs. I believe it has happened outside of that, but I think that's typically when it happens. I don't know if they've got a new lift station or what, but on the plans, it is the same manhole, so all this whole property will tie into that, so that will make that way, way worse if it's not addressed.
Ms.
Also,
Matthews, you want to wrap that up, please?
Can you put up the map? I want to show Mosswood. I've heard a lot of speaking to the road upgrade and such. So just the residential Mosswood where the property is, if you can put something up that's a little, where we have more clarity on the street of the project, Mosswood. So the property is in the center. I guess this is here. Everybody else can't see it though. So this is Mosswood Drive. As you can see, the road upgrade really isn't benefiting anybody outside of the proposed project. There's one home that was tore down. They're fixing to rebuild this here. That's the only home. The rest is businesses that has access on O'Galley Boulevard. Richmond Drive, which is here, it's off Mosswood. You have one home behind the commercial business. So this is the road I live on. And all emergency vehicles as well as service vehicles, et cetera, all back down that road. I understand the project said that they would do just a emergency and service exit here, but you can't really limit service vehicles, post offices, delivery trucks, emergency vehicles. I understand it's a siren that lets you open that gate. So not having it just emergency does not limit it. Everyone, in my view, would have access. It's not controlled. But there is no exit onto here. So again, service trucks, emergency vehicles, etc., any large delivery truck would have to come through here. Another point I wanted to make is these are 9 single-family homes here. It's a lot less space for the 25 townhomes than it is for the 9 single-family homes. We're asking the development be single-family homes, which is more appropriate for our neighborhood that we have on both sides. I also ask, if it is approved in either way, that you consider maybe doing screening on both sides. I know that was brought up in '79 when it was proposed to be R2 and denied. And also,
Needs to move on.
All right, Miss Matthews, you had enough time.
Okay.
So
I have
you want to
one
wrap it
last
up?
question.
Okay.
Can we ask why it was rescinded? The vote was rescinded by council in, I guess it was May, the May meeting?
Yes, it was brought up and voted on to rescind the project.
I didn't see any discussion on that. Is there something available that's available to the public?
Yeah, Mr. Alfrey.
Yeah, I'm the actual one that rescinded that. And the reason is my concern was that Aurora Road was going to be scaled down. And I vetted this project. Matter of fact, I have picked it apart. My concern was Aurora Road was going to be divided down. However, that's not going to occur now. They're going to keep Aurora Road 4 lanes. I was concerned about the traffic. Since then, of course, they're not dieting down Aurora Road, and they have done a traffic study. So that's why I brought it
So
back.
it was only one vote that changed the whole.
Well, no, I asked, we haven't voted yet. I asked to bring that back.
So whoever objects to the project can bring it back, and it has to be approved by council. So it was unanimous to bring it back.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I understand. Thanks.
As far as I know, it was unanimous, right?
I think so, ma'am.
All right. Next is Philip Matthews.
Good evening, Philip Matthews, 1317 Richmond Drive in Melbourne. I'm also opposed to the R2 zoning change. As Councilman Moore stated last time, it's like they're trying to jam as many homes in there as possible to make as much money as they can, and that really doesn't fit our neighborhood. It's a nice, quiet little neighborhood. You know, with 25 townhomes, 9 single-family homes in there, it's potentially 150 people going to be in there, and it's just really jammed in. And as Bruce stated, they're below the maximum density, but if you look at the map of that, probably a third of that residential area is wetland. And I don't know if you subtract that away, if it's still going to be within that density level or not. Excuse me. And of course, you know, our sewer systems do back up, and we're some of those homes that are on that southern or the lower side of Richmond. So, you know, I've had my home with the sewage backing up down my, you know, property. And with the traffic studies, I mean, you know, I don't think they took into account with the snowbird traffic and, you know, as Mike stated, the little leagues being out and schools being out. So a lot of time of the year, there's a lot more traffic on that road. And if they do ever, you know, with the new Apollo Boulevard coming across, that adds a lot more traffic also. Oh yeah, and my wife and Ramona, we were the ones that walked around with this petition, and you know, we never said anything about low-income housing or anything like that. We just stated that it was going to be townhomes and that they were going to be high-end townhomes. And every single person we talked to, you know, was totally against having that many people in that area, all in those townhomes. And I don't know what Bruce and then, you know, said to the people afterward to make them, you know, take their vote off of the petition. But, you know, initially we did have over that 20% that we needed. And like my wife said, we didn't go to all the businesses because they really don't influence this at all. And if you look at that map, the majority of the local, properties are a business in that spot. So that's a big section of that. And I'm, concerned about that vote being rescinded. I don't know, has that ever happened before in the history of?
Yes, sir. It has happened before.
Okay, it just
Yes,
seems
sir.
very odd.
That is,
Yeah,
that's
I don't see how
the
you
privilege
make a vote and
that,
take it away. But okay. Yeah, I guess that's about all I have.
all right.
But
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
thank you.
Next is Julia Perrian.
Thank you for having us here and to participate in this government forum. My name is Julia Perry, and I live at 1359 Richmond Drive, and longtime resident. I support the statements of Ramona and Phil Matthews, who just spoke, and I also am opposed to the rezoning of this project from low-density residential to medium-density R2. I think 150 new residents in that small area affecting not only our neighborhood, but O'Galley Boulevard. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I have done some research on O'Galley Boulevard, having pulled off, taking my son to kindergarten, nursery school, Little League, high school, and work. And it's really a very critical and critically dangerous highway. I did some research with the police department a few months ago, and I was told that in 2016, and I might be off one or two numbers from my memory, but there were approximately 18 deaths by car in Melbourne, and 7 of them were on O'Galley Boulevard. It's just got so many different problems. They've been exacerbated by the fact when the state came in and redid the highway and so forth. The flow of traffic has changed. People coming from the beach to go to work in the morning are waiting 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, to just cross US 1. The people that are going from Melbourne to the beach over O'Galley Boulevard, the traffic has been heightened by the Apollo Boulevard exit, which we love. We love the new bridge and we love that new road, but it's changed the whole safety of the road. And I don't know how many, you probably don't look at this from your perspective, but when you live and you're pulling out of Mosswood or any place between Mosswood and the railroad track, and there are many homes, Sun Circle, there's condos with several hundred people at Spring Creek. When the cars are coming from the east and they're going over the railroad track, you do not see the car until you get to the top. The car gets at least halfway up to the height of the railroad track. You cannot, so you're timing when I'm going to turn left or when I'm going to turn right, when this increased traffic from Apollo and Wickham and the traffic from US 1, and you can't see exactly when the last car that is coming to make a left or a right. It's scary right now. And I just think that all these things haven't really been taken into consideration as to the number of people that are going to be living in that small area. I've called the police and the powers that be who make the speed limit from US 1 to almost Stewart, I think it is 35 miles an hour. And I said, why can't you extend that 35 mile an hour speed zone to right after the high school? So at least the kids coming out of school and being picked up and everything every day, it won't be 45 miles an hour right in front of the school, when it would just be a short extension to extend that speed zone, slow down zone. And if anybody wanted to take a measurement of the speed that people really go, they're going 50, 60 miles an hour sometimes right along that area. It's so hard to have a police surveillance and ticketing and all the work that they have to do, but it's a scary, scary process getting in and out of just Mosswood and Sun Circle and Spring Creek. It's scary. So I just think not as much consideration as should be has been made to the traffic situation. And also, I just noticed, I think, on these drawings, so you're going to have Mosswood, then you're going to have an exit for the townhouses and the homes, and then you're going to have a row of businesses with it looks like maybe 2 more exits. So there's going to be 3 additional exit points onto O'Galley Boulevard. I may have read that wrong because I just saw this. But it's just that's really making it a lot more dangerous. I really think that keeping it lower density.
You want to wrap that up?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to wrap it up? Your time is up.
Okay.
Do you want to wrap it up?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I didn't hear the bell the first time, I guess.
We don't do bells. We have that, the light.
Sorry. My
You're
first time here. I appreciate
You're
it.
okay. You're okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. Next is Eric Ellebrock.
Don't say anything about bells. Don't give him any other ideas.
Oh, that may be a good idea.
Eric, I knew it. Eric Ellebrock, lifelong resident of the city of Melbourne. Since I don't require to say my address, do I have to put my address down on my speaking request form now? Is that changed?
Yes, it has changed.
So I don't have to put my address on the speaker request form.
You
Okay.
can city is, you don't have to require a street address.
On the speaker request form.
That's correct.
Good deal. Okay.
Right.
Eric Ellebrock, lifelong resident. I've lived off to O'Galley Boulevard. I remember when O'Galley Boulevard was Montreal. I mean, I've lived along that street my entire life, more or less. I would like to address the people who are against this development. Okay, the people who live right next door to it, the people who have concerns that it's going to impact the water, and who have concerns it's going to impact the traffic, and who've talked to the neighborhood who got the petition. I'd like to address that. They're wasting their time. They're wasting their time objecting. That's it. They're wasting it's a waste of exercise and futility on their part. I would like to address these gentlemen behind me who's spending all this stuff and all that, who spent all the money on the traffic study, who are here tonight, who've taken out their valuable time to drive from Melbourne Beach and from various places. I'd like to address their two. They're wasting their time. It's an exercise in they don't need to be here. They didn't need to do the traffic study. They didn't need to do any of that. And the reason for both of those opinions is because the city council in the city of Melbourne has never, ever met a multi-million-dollar residential development it didn't like. Okay, that's it. All these addresses, we need affordable, we need high-end, expensive housing in the city of Melbourne. Let me tell you, he's right when he says there's gated communities and stuff going up here, left and right. There's all these multi-million-dollar homes going up there. So why doesn't he go up there and build some? Because that's where people, that's where people are buying the house. That's where the majority of high-end residents are going. Okay, sorry, that's just a fact. We don't have, look at the small amount of we don't have the acreage they have out there for development, and that's because we're maxed out. Now I'm going to quote somebody that y'all might remember. A guy by the name of Harry Good. Me and Harry went way back, and Harry had some issues and he had some opinions, but he said, Melbourne's gotten to the point where people come here to work. We're a work community. His whole emphasis has been on bringing jobs and all that. Other communities, they're outside communities, Palm Bay, Vieira and all that. They're residential. People live there and they commute. This is not a really smart use of the land, but hey, it's going to bring in some money and so forth and so on. It's going to give you a chance to these guys to make a hell of a lot of profit. It's going to, grease the wheels. The Chamber of Commerce is all for it. But again, here's the deal for both of y'all. the residents and the developers. It's a waste of, you all wasting your time, because the city of Melbourne has never, ever, and this council in particular, has never, ever met a multi-million-dollar development, housing development it didn't like. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hellebrock. All right, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. What is your pleasure? We'll vote separately.
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
I have a question for
Yes.
our engineering department.
Okay.
On that lift station, the concern about the sanitary backup, can we have an update on that?
Thank you. I'm looking at the city engineer. No, we don't have any specific information about that tonight. I can tell you this is the first I've heard there's an issue there in my 5 years, but we'll certainly look into it if there's, and get some information to you. If there is a problem there, it'll certainly be remedied if there's going to be another connection to that lift station. It has to be.
I
So
think
I'll
that's a
be glad
big
to look into
concern.
it and get you the information. But yeah, if there's an issue there, it has to be fixed.
Yeah, that was one of my, notes is, how come we haven't heard that before?
I'll be glad to look into it and let you know.
Ms. Moore?
Yes, I have to say something on that. Residents had mentioned this to me, and I think I mentioned it in the past, and I talked to Ralph Rigersberg about this and asked him if he would check on this and make sure. I know that we have been in the process of cleaning the sewers, both storm and sanitary sewers, because some of them in our city had not been cleaned in years. And he said he would follow up on that.
Okay.
I also asked about the lift station. The complaint was the residents, when they
Right.
lost power, that our generator didn't kick on fast enough. So they were going to make some tests and check that to make sure that it is working adequately. So, and he said that at some point he would get back to us.
Okay.
So that has been addressed.
All right.
Mayor,
Well, I don't know.
Okay, Ms. Lopez?
I don't know if we should proceed then, not having an answer to this, because that is a major problem there, and it can affect the homeowners there. I mean, I can just imagine living there, and if that happens again, I'll be very upset. I mean, I was very, very persuaded on this project.
Okay.
I mean,
Cindy, do you have more information?
Yeah, Ms. Dittmer would like to respond.
Okay, good.
no, I
Somebody
wanted
should.
to ask council, the applicant had requested earlier to have a moment for rebuttal.
Okay.
If council would still permit that for the applicant.
Mayor, let me be clear. If there's an issue at that lift station, it will be addressed.
Exactly.
There's no ambiguity here whatsoever. We have the resources. If there's a problem there, Jennifer Spagnoli's here, the Assistant City Utilities Engineer. She may have some information.
Jennifer Spagnoli, Utilities Engineer. We did get a phone call from one of the residents. I had taken the call, and then I spoke with Ralph about it. He did look into it. The area that's in question, they are very low homes. And we've worked with some of the houses to put those backwater valves. It's not because of the lift station. The closest lift station, in my understanding, is 23, which is on O'Galley. It has backup generators. It's our largest station that it's gravity through the neighborhood up to the big station. So I don't think it's not the lift station. It's the fact that the houses are low.
They're on low ground. All right. So I wonder why they were built on low-lying property then?
There's quite
So-
a few of those in the city.
In that area? Okay. All right. There it
Well,
is. It happens. We're building on low-lying area. Okay. Thank you. You're out of order, ma'am. You're not going to talk out of the audience. Okay, so Mr. Moya, I can bring you back up for any rebuttal.
Yes, thank you, council. I'll go on the record right now to make sure that we work with the city utility department in any way, fashion, that we do not impact that system to make it any worse. I don't know what's going on. I'm sure we're going to find out when we go to design. That's something we're going to have to address. And if we can connect anywhere that doesn't connect to that system, we will. There's a gravity system that runs along O'Galley, and if we can tie into that and bypass what they're tied into, we will definitely do that. We do not want to impact them. We will, if we have to make improvements to make our system connect, we'll have to do that. So it'll bring the whole system up if that's what happens. The only other comment I really wanted to rebut was the traffic. I mean, I drive this road every single day, multiple times a day, and it does not take me hours to get through US 1. I live in Harbor Beach, so I have to get here every morning and leave every day. The traffic report that we had done says that there's 49 PM peak trips. And PM peak is really what you look at a roadway. That roadway has a capacity of probably over maybe 4,000 PM trips, and we're only adding 49. That's pretty insignificant. That's something like 1%. We're 34 units. Sun Circle development's over 70. The apartment complex is over 100, maybe even more than that. So you can see it's a natural transition to go towards a lower number of units. So if we're accessing that road, you know, we're way less than what they're doing here, and they seem to get out okay. I don't know where all those accidents were, but O'Galley runs from 95 all the way to A1A, and I'm sure they weren't all right here. So I don't think we're going to have a traffic issue. There's only 15 homes that access Mosswood to get out to O'Galley, and we're not even going to be impacting them. If service vehicles have to go down their street and turn around, that's what they do now. That's what they're going to continue to do. We have no impact on that whatsoever, except our trucks that come out can come through and pull straight up Mosswood. They don't have to back in or do anything like that. They'll have to back in to serve the existing residents, but there's nothing we can do about that. And there's no reason for us to upgrade Richmond because we're not going to be sending any traffic down there, and we're not even going to send any traffic down Mosswood. It's going to improve their access because the access problem is on O'Galley, not onto Mosswood. So it's going to give them full road width for whatever traffic going up and down there, better visibility and better access. So we think we're improving it. I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I know they're not traffic engineers, and our study says it's fine, and I agree. And I'm going to be riding down that roadway every single day, and I think we'll be fine. So I don't have any other issue with any other stuff that they said. I think there was maybe some miscommunication with some of the neighbors. Some of the neighbors came right out and said they thought it was going to be apartments. They came out and said it. Some of the people might have taken that at Section 8 low-income housing. Some people like to hear what they like to hear, but they did not really fully understand it. And all we showed them were these pictures here that we're showing you right now. And once they saw what it was going to be, they changed their mind. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moe. Any questions for Mr. Moore? All right.
Mayor.
You did have a...
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Minus?
Okay. Yeah, I just want to ask about the low-lying areas that they had mentioned about. Is that going to be an issue? It's going to be built up. It's not going to be low-lying, sort of being in issues with the sewer or the lift stations or anything, right?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We're going to be building it up because we have to be above the water table. We can't be lower than the sewer that we're going to connect to in the gravity system. So we will. I don't know how much higher we'll be than they are because we're not building right on the river. We're building a lot farther up. You know, a lot of these homes go pretty far down, and that grade drops the farther you get from O'Galley. It drops, and that's why these are wetlands. That's why another reason we're staying away from them. So we'll be on the higher ground.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Ms. Lopez.
I move to approve of ordinance number 2018-21 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
A second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-21 by Ms. Lopez, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion?
Mayor?
Okay.
I want to see if we
Ms.
can
Lopez.
get some sort of remedy to that situation that they're having with the sanitary backup.
Right, Mr. McNeese is going to give us
Yes,
a report. and check
if
it.
this is approved before the second reading.
This is first reading, and we'll have something.
If it's approved.
All right, Mr. Alfrey.
Okay, couple things I want to address. First off, I know we kind of nitpicked this pretty hard, and I appreciate your professionalism, Mr. Moya. And I appreciate the council doing their due diligence and going back and forth. I will say, being in construction, I know that I could see where the issue would be, well, what if it's R2 and stuff? But you have to look at the project in general. And you could easily say, well, we just want single-family dwelling houses on there. Got to be careful what you wish for on that, because what if they're $120,000 homes? I mean, I really can accept the R2 because of the gated community. What the applicant is really trying to do is say, we want to really improve the area. And they've gone, and by doing that, it's allowed them to fix Richmond or Mosswood. It's allowed them to be a gated community. It's allowed them to do a lot of things that we see a lot of developments come in and that they can't do, and they don't do. It's, well, let me throw a bunch of apartments on here and let's move. That's not what this is. Now, I can understand where the residents on Richmond would be concerned, because no one likes to, see growth in their backyard. But I have to look at the project and say, I'll have to accept this one, but because you never know what you're going to get on this one, and they did. It's a nice project.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? They're still in discussion. All right. Seeing none, I do have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 8B, Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of ordinance number 2018-22 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-22 by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 9 is ordinance number 2018-26, A and V number 374, Ms. Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to vacation of an approximately 11-foot long by 5.5-foot wide portion of a 10-foot wide public utility easement that runs along the north edge of the property located north of Player Circle and west of Lorabelle Drive, 1870 South Player Circle, making findings, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dolly. Ms. Jenny Lamb, Engineering.
This is second reading, and I have nothing further to add. I believe last time we talked about that this is an existing storage shed that encroaches in the easement, and they're just trying to bring it in compliance. So recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-26.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? Seeing none, this is second reading. It's quasi-judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I have no sign-up sheets. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-26.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-26 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading. It's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 10, ordinance number 2018-27, A and V number 380, Ms. Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to vacation of a 43-foot long by 6-foot wide portion of a 10-foot wide public utility easement and public utility and drainage easement that runs along the east edge of the property located north of Rio Villa Boulevard and east of Rio Pino, 3083 North Rio Pino, making findings, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
This is another abandon and vacate request that eliminates noncompliance. There has been a pool within this easement since the early 1980s. And so staff recommends approval of ordinance number 2018-27.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? Seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-27.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-27 by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading, it's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. We are into new business. Item number 11 is First Amendment to the interlocal agreement regarding rehabilitation and transfer of a portion of South Babcock Street from Brevard County to the City of Melbourne. This is Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is a request for approval of a joint resolution from the Babcock Street Community Redevelopment Agency and from the City of Melbourne. The original agreement was executed earlier this year in January. This First Amendment expands the construction project to add additional stormwater drainage repairs to the Babcock Street that will be necessary prior to the road reconstruction. The stormwater drainage defects were discovered by city staff during inspection of the roadway infrastructure. The approximate cost of lining the stormwater pipes has been estimated at $370,750. Through negotiations with the county has agreed to fund these stormwater infrastructure repairs through the Babcock Street CRA by extending the sunset date of the agency by one additional year to take a CRA through September 9th of 2024. This requires an amendment to the three-party interlocal agreement that's before you this evening, and that'll require the city, the CRA, and the county has already approved that. And that will include the additional construction costs and the one-year CRA extension. We will need to come back during the July meetings. We also have to amend the CRA redevelopment plan as well as the loan agreement, and those will return to council. And with that, staff would recommend approval of resolution number 3744 by both City Council and the Babcock CRA.
All right, Ms. Dittmer, I need to, without objection, council to reconvene as the Babcock Street Community Redevelopment Agency for that resolution number 3744. Council, do you have any questions on the resolution 3744? All right, seeing none, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3744.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3744 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? And I'm going to say, thank goodness we're getting this done. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Without objection, council will reconvene for the following item, resolution number 3744.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3744.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3744 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I
Mayor.
vote aye. And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Mr. McNeese.
Excuse me. I just want to add quickly, thank your county commission counterparts, and I need to thank the county manager and his staff. This nasty old Babcock Street just doesn't want to go down quietly, but I think we're finally ready to take it out. And now that this interlocal has dealt with the last hurdle that arose, I think we're really ready to go. So we appreciate y'all staying in there and supporting this, and your friends at the county have already done the same thing, so we'll be ready to go.
And I think I'd like to make a comment, the fact that we are utilizing the CRA, and without that, I don't think we would be here.
It would have been much more difficult, no question.
Very. All
Now we're
right.
going to get to it.
Item 12 is Babcock Street Reconstruction Project number 14118. And this is engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
As Cindy mentioned, she will have agenda items about Babcock Street in the July meetings. Engineering will also have additional items on the July meeting. So we're ramping up for construction. The closing, we're hoping, when I say closing, the transfer of property should be the 1st of August or right around the 1st of August. This item before you tonight is actually 3 separate parts. The first part being that when we came to you at the end of February for your approval, for the water main expenses, we were taking money out of the project budget, and those were not utility funds. So item A is approval of resolution number 3745, and that is a transfer of $1,100,000. Where that comes from is that comes from Hickory Street. And you ask, why is that coming from Hickory Street? When we budgeted for Hickory Street for the utility work associated with Hickory Street, we thought that it was going to cost us approximately $2 million. At the end of the day, DOT paid for approximately $1.1 million of that utility work associated with Hickory Street. So we are moving the utility money from one road project to another road project. So I wanted to explain that because I know that was a little confusion why Hickory money was coming to there, but it truly is utility money coming into the utility portion of the project. Also with this agenda item, for the full depth reclamation, the contractor is not including the placement of the driving asphalt surface on top of the full depth reclamation. Because we were going through the county, that is the way the county wanted it as when we first started going through cost estimates, and the county was very precise in being able to sign off on our cost estimate. They wanted it to be provided by a separate contractor. So to lock in the prices of the asphalt, we need to move forward with the approval now, even though that's probably one of the last things that's going to be put down. But this locks us into current prices with VA paving. So the piggyback contract with VA paving includes supplying and placing a total of 2 inches of asphalt and 1.5 inches of what's called friction course for a total of 3.5 inches of asphalt on top of the new reclaimed base material. As I mentioned, we're trying to lock in the rates for that. Additionally, the third part of this item is for In Situ Form Technologies, LLC. As Cindy discussed, there were pipe repairs that need to be done. This is the contract that takes care of the pipe repairs. They estimate that it's going to take 4 to 5 weeks before they can get out there to do the work. We want to get on their schedule. That's why we're here tonight, to ask for that contract. As mentioned in the amount of why we extended the CRA, this is the $370,750.80. This is for lining 1,855 feet of the existing 3,000 feet of pipe. City staff went in and inspected that pipe. The county didn't have any inspection records on the pipe. There's tree roots, there's gaps in the pipe, and it does not make any sense to put a road over top of that. And the heavy equipment over top of that. We need to repair those pipes right now. So we ask, and I know you'll do it as 3 separate items, but one is the budget resolution number 3745. The other is a contract for VA paving of Cocoa, Florida, in the amount of $703,630.80. And then lastly would be with In Situ Form Technologies for the pipelining. And they are from Chesterfield, Missouri, and that's in the amount of $370,750.80.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Yes, I have a question.
Ms. Lopez.
You mentioned the tree roots. Are we getting rid of those trees and substitute some other trees that won't have this problem in the future?
We are not planning on getting rid of any of the trees. Once we put the liner in, that should be, the pipe should be good for at least another 50 years. But that is something to consider if the trees in those areas, once it becomes our right of way, that may be something for us to consider as possibly taking down some of those trees where they are particularly bad.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Ms. Lamb, Vice Mayor Minus had indicated there was a flooding issue right near Melbourne High School. So if there's extra money,
that's exactly where I would recommend it going.
Yes,
we'll get there when we get
there. I took pictures of it because we were at the ride with Jim in the scat bus, and I took pictures of it. But yes, if we could do extra money and really fix that area,
that is our hope.
As well as the school crossing from Melbourne High School across the street. So I'd like to see us work on that project.
And that should be an upcoming item. I know we had talked about enhancing that crosswalk, and that is something that we want to do as part of this project, and you'll see with the next round of approvals.
Okay, very good. Anything else, Council? All right, seeing none, we'll vote separately on item 12A. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Lopez.
Approval of resolution number 3745.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3745 by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 12B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of contract award for asphalt paving to VA Paving Incorporated of Cocoa, Florida, in the amount of $703,630.80 for Babcock Street Reconstruction Project number 14118.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 12B, as stated in council's package by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 12C, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of work order for cured and placed pipe rehabilitation services for Sudafform Technologies LLC of Chesterfield, Missouri, in the amount of $370,750.80 for Babcock Street Reconstruction Project number 14118.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item C12C by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Mayor,
Ms. Moore.
quick comment. When this is all finished, I feel that we ought to break out the champagne with this council and celebrate Babcock Street being resurfaced and make a lot of people happy.
Second.
I don't think we would need champagne. You're talking about on the dais?
Oh, of course.
All right, no, we'll have to hang out at the bagel shop. Of course, I don't think they have champagne
Bagel
there.
They don't have
13.
champagne.
Yeah, all right,
Bagel
we'll go for a
13.
bagel. Okay. Item 13, NASA Boulevard Median Landscaping Project 18615, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
The NASA Boulevard Landscaping Medians Project is a CRA project, and it is from Eddie Allen Road to Babcock Street. The Department of Transportation, under a landscape grant program, is awarding the city $100,000 in landscape funds for this project. A joint participation agreement between the city and Florida Department of Transportation is needed for the construction and the ongoing maintenance of the landscaping and irrigation. And the included in your agenda packet is that joint participation agreement, and it outlines the costs. It also outlines the reimbursement and what items they will reimburse to the city. The city's original project budget only included $60,000 of FDOT revenue. Therefore, a budget resolution is required to recognize the increase in the revenue in the amount of $40,000. And then there's inadequate funding available within the Babcock Community Redevelopment Area project, and a budget transfer of $69,867 for the shortfall is required. Recommend approval of Resolution 3746, and that is for the joint approval of the joint participation agreement with Florida Department of Transportation, and a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. And then the second resolution is Resolution 3747, and that is for the budget resolution to both accept the revenue from DOT and also for the transfer within the CRA funds.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? Ms. Lamb, the plants that they're going to use, DOT is going to use, I would like to stress that I don't want to see society garlics out there. They stink.
no.
We had it on
That's on the
Babcock
ban
Street,
list.
and I don't want to see that again. So,
We did it once.
yes, we did it once. I had so many complaints.
That is
and I
not
just
in the
want-
plans, I can assure you
Okay.
of that.
Mayor,
Thank you. Ms. Moore.
my only comment is, and I see that they're going to put in some irrigation here, but FDOT and the TPO is great for saying we're going to put in landscaping, but they forget the irrigation part of it. And this is really, really important. Having been on the beautification committee for years in this city, we have really worked with this and know what will work and what won't work. So We need to watch this.
Right, and we still pick drought tolerant plants or plants that are drought tolerant. However, we are providing the landscaping, and the plans are complete, and because the city is in charge of the construction portion of it and of the maintenance portion of it, we will be make sure that the irrigation stays intact.
Thank you.
All right, any other
Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor
Just
Minus.
hope the irrigation does the plants instead of the cars going by.
Yes.
Yes, there's an irrigation design, and yes, we don't want any on the cars.
Okay. All right, very good. So council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3746.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3746 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion?
Mayor, I have a
Yeah,
question.
Ms. Lopez.
It says here the estimated cost for the project is $218,550.
Correct.
The Florida Department of Transportation is giving us $100,000. And the CRA is giving us $69,000. Where's the rest coming from?
The rest is CRA funding also. It's already within the project budget. When it was created, the remaining funding was placed in that budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, seeing none. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 13B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of resolution number 3747.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3747 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 14, Pineda Causeway Water Transmission Main Project 30315, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
Yes, at the last council meeting, the council approved the interlocal agreement between the city of Cocoa and the city of Melbourne for the design and construction of a second water main within the Pineda Causeway Water Transmission Main Project. We're pleased to come back to you tonight. One, to accept the funding from the city of Cocoa, and that would be in the amount of $927,731. And then the second part of this is that we will be we are asking for approval for the amendment number 1 to the contract with Reese Engineering Incorporated, and that contract amount is $665,196. As you can see, there's a difference in those two numbers, and part of this is that by Cocoa joining in on this project, the city is experiencing overall design costs of the project to be reduced by $250,000 for our portion of the project. So I find that very exciting. I can't take any credit for this. I know that Ralph and Jennifer and Harold in the Utilities Department have been working on this, and but I do find it exciting. We've reduced the cost of our design project. So request approval of resolution number 3748, and that is to receive the funding from the city of Cocoa, and then approval of amendment number 1 to the contract with Reese Engineering for the design of the second water main.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure on 14A?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
recommend approval of resolution number 3748.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of resolution number 3748 by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Moore. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 14B, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Moore, Ms. Thomas.
move for approval of amendment number 1 to the contract with Reese Engineering, Inc. for Pineda Causeway Water Main Project, project number 30315, in the amount of $665,196.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item 14B by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 15 is a contract award for pavement management alternative methods to asphalt paving systems, Zephyr Hills, Florida. Ms. Jenny Lamb.
When engineering presented the pavement management plan to council a couple of years ago, we talked about that we were not just going to mill and resurface roads anymore. We have many roads that are in need of base repairs, and similar to Babcock Street, we've been talking about full depth reclamation. There are also other, I don't want to say products, but other methods that can be used. One's called cold in place recycling, chip seal, and microsurfacing services. And that's different than what we've been doing historically over the years, but we're choosing the best treatment for the road, because it makes no sense to go and mill and resurface a road. Like if we were to just mill and resurface Babcock Street, all of the imperfections in the base layer would just show up right through that asphalt in just probably, I'll say a matter of years, but it could be much sooner than that. So what is before you here in item number 15 is a base contract for pavement management alternative methods. It's unit prices. We are piggybacking the Polk County contract, which is also included in this item. And this contractor will be used for some of our annual, and I'll call it resurfacing, but our annual projects where we give you the list of the roads and we go through there. It also will be used for an instance, a later item is Croftwood, where we already identified that needed to be reconstructed. But now we're finding that it can be done using that full depth reclamation process. So we plan to utilize this base contract with work orders, and I would say the vast majority of them will come to you for approval of individual work orders, because they'll be over the $35,000 mark, so they will be coming to you. So I recommend approval of the base contract award for pavement management alternative methods with Asphalt Paving Systems Incorporated of Zephyr Hills, Florida.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, I have Ms. Moore and then Ms. Lopez.
I notice on their sketches here that there's weather limitations on this. So I am hoping when this can be applied, so I'm hoping that we're kind of watching when we will be doing this. And they're also talking about giving us a 100 or 1,000 foot long test strip. All right, and I think we should watch that very carefully, because we had some issues on NASA with the type of asphalt that was laid. I'm not saying it was this company. And so I would like to make sure that we're watching this close.
We will be watching this close, and that's part of why we chose to piggyback this contract from Polk County. This company has extensive experience in doing the full depth reclamation, the cold in place process. I think what happened with NASA Boulevard is we had a contractor that, while fully capable of doing that type of work, it was one of their first projects in doing the work, and there were a few stumbles along the way. I think the end result ended up working out just fine, but it did take a little longer. The contractor has already been out to inspect several of our streets. They reviewed our soil borings that we've done, and I have quite a bit of confidence in this company based on what I've seen with work here in Brevard County. The county has utilized them, and Palm Bay has utilized them, and staff has gone and inspected. I don't want to say inspected, but we've observed while they were doing those projects.
Okay, because that mess on NASA was forever. That
I
road
agree.
was closed forever. Our businesses suffered, and I just don't want to see a repeat of this.
I agree.
Thank you.
Ms. Lopez.
Yes, that was also my concern. Are we getting a better product, basically? That's what it boils down to. Also, is this more expensive?
It's actually quite a bit cheaper or less expensive than if we were to do full reconstruction of a project. It also happens much faster than full reconstruction. Many of the projects that you'll see on work order number 1, we were considering reconstructing the road, basically tearing out from curb to curb and reconstructing the base. That would have the road torn up much longer and would cost more than by using this full depth reclamation process. I don't want to sell this as this is the solution to all of our problems. There are some roads that you really just have to reconstruct, but we're picking through our pavement management plan and finding the ones we can use this process on.
It sounds like you got it down pat. Very good.
No
We're trying.
intended.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
What percentage of the roads do you think we have that would need the complete reconstruction? And just a guess,
I'd have to go
educated
back to the
guess.
management plan. I'd say about 20%
Wow.
need full reconstruction. I'd say maybe 15 to 20% need full reconstruction. And we're trying to tackle this slowly. Like we said, with the Croftwood that's coming up, we thought that one needed it. And as we were investigating this process more, we found out it didn't need the reconstruction. So I'm hoping we find a few more of them like this.
Wow, thank you.
That's in District 5, right?
For Alfrey.
I believe it is, yes.
A lot of them are District 5, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting a lot of those done.
It's going to be on a needed basis, Mr.
We need.
Alfrey.
We need.
All right, Ms. Moore.
Several years ago, we went out and reevaluated all of our roads to see which ones were our priority.
Correct.
Yes.
Are we still following along with that?
That these came straight out of the projects that we're tackling, came straight out of that prioritization list, and it prioritized our milling and resurfacing projects. It prioritized the reconstruction projects or the full depth reclamation projects. And we're trying. It didn't say which one to do first, whether it was mill and resurfacing or the reconstruction, and that's why we're trying to balance that. You'll see that in the last year's budget book, this year's budget book,
Right.
and that's what we're doing here tonight too.
That should give Mr. Alfrey some relief.
Yep, Mayor, if I may say,
Yeah,
I want to
Mr.
thank you.
Alfrey.
I want to thank you, Ms. Lamb, because I know I've came to you lately on a couple road issues in District 5. It's real bad, but I've noticed they're being worked on, and I really appreciate it. I will tell you that infrastructure is really big to me, and I just want to throw it out there. I know we're kind of joking on this, but you have been jumping on as city manager, city attorney. Thank you very much and our staff for getting on those, because they're in bad shape, and I appreciate it.
And some of those were utility projects where they did cuts and they came in and did a
Yeah, I
large
saw 'em.
patch
Yeah, roads-
later on.
yeah.
So
All right, so council, what is your pleasure on item 15?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
recommend approval of contract award for pavement management alternative methods with Asphalt Pavement Systems Incorporated, Zephyrhills, Florida.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 15 as stated in council's package by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 16 is work order number 1 to the Pavement Management Alternative Methods Services Contract with Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. for the fiscal year 17 resurfacing program. Engineering, Ms. Jenny Lamb.
we just spoke of the base contract. This is now the work order number 1. We are tackling the roads that showed up on the FY17 asphalt restoration list. That includes University Boulevard, Edgewood Drive, and that's from Dairy Road to Aristocrat Drive, Scenic Drive, Magnolia Avenue, Neiman Avenue, and Wilderness Lane. These roadways have multiple locations of base failure and are not candidates for standard milling and resurfacing. Recommend approval of work order number 1 to the contract with Asphalt Paving Systems Incorporated for the fiscal year 17 resurfacing program in the amount of $1,241,263.95.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Just a comment.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
This is very, very needed. I'm glad to see that we're getting on it and we're doing it quickly. Thank you.
All right, well, I would like to add a comment. We've got University Boulevard. Is that something that could be number 1?
We're trying to time that with the university to make sure that we are not interfering with move-in dates and such, but this is also going to be the contractor that we use on Babcock Street, and he had slated to work part of the summer on that street, and that he is ready to move on these. So I think in our talks with FIT that they are ready for us to do that portion of University Boulevard.
All right,
So
Mayor. Thank goodness. Yeah, Vice Mayor
Okay,
Minus.
I'd like to ask, does that University and Boulevard, does that include the east and the west end of University, or is that just the west end?
that is the west end. I think at the far east end, from Babcock to west to at least
University Park?
It's past Country Club, so it's Babcock and west until it ends. And right there in the front part of the college, the road is in really bad shape there. We've got base failure.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we already paved the
We did
east side
patient-
of University.
We did pave portions of the east side of
Portions,
University.
yes.
Yeah,
Not all of it.
okay. All right, so council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
I move for approval of work order 1 to the contract with Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. for fiscal year 17 resurfacing program, project number 68017 in the amount of $1,241,265.95.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 16 as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 17 is work order number 2 to the Pavement Management Alternative Methods Contract for Croftwood Drive Reconstruction, project number 64217, Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc., Zephyr Hills, Florida, $609,320.30. Can we round this up?
We're using
the
unit
cents.
prices, so.
Okay, all right. I tried.
You did.
Another filled-up reclamation project. Like I mentioned before, Croftwood Drive was on as a reconstruction project. As we got out there, we did the soil borings. We discovered that this was a prime candidate for full-depth reclamation. Also, while we were out there and doing the soil borings, we realized the very poor condition of Cherrywood Drive and Palmwood Drive. Both of those are on the list. They just didn't come up high enough. But while we were out there, there's some economy to scale. We don't have to mobilize again. And what we found is for about $85,000 more, we could tackle all 3 streets and get them all done at once. So we were talking about project savings before. It is cheaper to do the full depth reclamation than to do the total reconstruction. So recommend that additional funding from the FY 18 resurfacing program in the amount of $85,000 be added into this project. It's not going to hurt our resurfacing program that we did. I believe back, let me check the date here. And on April 24th, I brought forward just our milling and resurfacing that came through, and we had some savings on that project. So those savings are going to go to do the reconstruction of these roads so that we can complete these at once while the contractor is out there. So recommend approval of work order number 2 to the contract with Asphalt Paving Systems Incorporated for the Croftwood Drive Restoration Project in the amount of $609,320.30 and a budget transfer of $85,000 from the FY18 resurfacing program.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
No, I'm just
Ms.
going
Moore.
to comment. I'm going to have some happy people in my district because those roads were not good.
I plan on taking some extensive photographs of that road right now. That road Croftwood is in particular horrible shape.
Awful.
The others aren't much better. And I'm going to do before and after pictures because it's going to make a world of difference.
That's wonderful, thank you, because they really are suffering on Croftwood.
Yes.
All right.
Terrible.
Any other questions? Seeing none, council, what is your pleasure? Item number C17.
Mayor?
Ms. Moore.
I'm going to move for approval of work order 2 to the contract with Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. for the Croftwood Drive Restoration Project number 64217 in the amount of $609,320.30 with a budget transfer of $85,000 from FY18 resurfacing program project number 68018 into the project budget.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 17 as stated in council's package by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Lamb. We're just on a fast track, right? Item number 18 is the review of the completed space needs assessment, cost and financing options related to the construction of a new police department headquarters facility, number 18. And this will be under engineering. No, so it's Shannon Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. In November of last year, City Council awarded a contract to the architectural firm of Harvard Jolly Incorporated for completion of a space needs assessment for the police department. Representatives from Harvard Jolly have conducted multiple group and individual meetings with stakeholders such as the staff from the police department, the engineering, management services, and facilities divisions. Their approach has considered the existing conditions as well as future needs, efficiencies that could be gained by combining the two current buildings into one, as well as best practices in police station design. The assessment also included an analysis of 4 different sites for construction of the new consolidated police headquarters. So what we'd like to do tonight is to first ask Jack Williams with Harvard Jolly to present their methodology, recommendations, and cost estimates, and then we'll bring it back to staff and discuss with you financing options and requirements, the timing. Representatives from Harvard Jolly are here, as well as our internal project management team. So we do have representatives from the engineering department, the police department, the city attorney's office, and the finance department. So we'll be able to answer, hopefully, the questions you may have moving forward.
Good evening.
All right, very good.
For the record, Jack Williams with Harvard Jolly Architects. Before we get into the needs assessment, I'll give you a little bit of background. I guess remind you of your existing facilities. Currently, you have your headquarters off Apollo and your communication off of Babcock. In total, they're about 44,500 square feet. Prior to this assessment, we also did the study on your existing buildings. And that study revealed that there were some challenges associated with inefficient design, insufficient size, as well as concerns with some of the deteriorating conditions of the buildings. And also the fact you have 2 locations separated by 2 miles that make some inefficiencies for conducting police business. That being said, we again had conducted this process whereby we did interview most of the police, the chief, his staff, his department heads, as well as the IT department to determine their needs, and not only spatial needs, but what's also critical of this building is the technology, the systems, the communications, to develop not only a space needs, but also a specification that we can use a guide to design and develop this project. And from those interviews, we developed a space needs assessment, which identified all the individual spaces, their equipment, and their needs, and also some adjacencies that we think were important in developing it. Are you controlling the slides, or I'm sorry, I should advance. Thank you. We can go on to the next slide. Thank you. And the next slide will illustrate, based upon the our space needs and developing some ideas of how we lay out this building. The next slide illustrates the square footages. We list the square footage of each of the spaces cumulatively, as well as totally. We're looking at a building of 72,458 square feet. And this brings us up to a 2040 space requirement. We looked at 2020 of about 66,859, but the 72,000 brings us up to our 2040 needs for this facility. And as indicated, we have the individual spaces and departments with their square footages. And the next slide illustrates how we envision this can be arranged in the building. We're looking at a 2-story building. Our first floor would house our public lobby, a community room, our records, forensics, as well as evidence, our special operations, and the predominantly first floor would be by our patrol, which include both our holding cells as well as our sally port. Second floor would house our police department administration, our data center, our EOC, as well as our investigations and our comm center, and finally a gymnasium and locker rooms for the PD. And that gives an overview of what would likely be the layout of the uses in that building. Next slide illustrates the sites we investigated as a part of this needs assessment. We've had identified 4 sites that we did an analysis of. The first 2 are one directly behind the existing headquarters, one across the street at Site 2, which would be across from St. Michael. And then third and the fourth sites were off of NASA Boulevard. And again, we looked at each of these sites and looked in detail. Next slide illustrates. We looked at both wetlands, endangered species, how we moved in and out of the site, the likelihood of a storm surge and its site potential drainage. And then we also went as far as doing fill estimates, and available utilities, as well as traffic and any airport issues we would have on these sites. And based upon our analysis of the 4 sites, we are recommending Site 2 as we develop a matrix, and all those assessments in Site 2 seem to be the apparent recommendation. And on that site, on each of the sites, we did a test fit, which basically illustrates how we believe the building could fit on the site. Again, this is strictly a test fit. It may not necessarily be the final design, but it illustrates what the site can hold. We're looking at approximately 16 acres on the site for the new facility, located a 2-story building with orientation toward Apollo, provided public parking, as well as secure staff parking, which included both oversized vehicles as well as impound area, and then training field for the police department and the associated stormwater retention. So again, this was a site that is being recommended for housing the new PD.